ExamPrep.School, Colorado Crop Insurance Exam, exam code InsCO-Crop31. There are 6 practice exams in this series. This video covers Practice Exam 1. The first 20 questions are free. In this video, we will be covering the following major categories for Practice Exam 1. Colorado laws, rules, and regulations pertinent to crop insurance. Crop insurance. General insurance terms and concepts. Multiple peril crop insurance. Let's walk through the format. I'll read each question and its choices. Let's get started. Question 1. Which statement accurately differentiates risk from peril in an insurance context? A. Risk is the chance of loss. Peril is the event or cause that produces the loss. B. Risk is the financial evaluation of exposure. Peril is the assessment of safety measures. C. Risk is the property valuation at the time of loss. Peril is the method used to settle the claim. D. Risk is the mechanism by which a loss occurs. Peril is the probability that a loss will happen. A countdown circle appears in the top right. Once it completes, the answer is revealed. You can pause at any time if you'd like longer to think. If you'd like additional practice covering more topics, see the description for our book. The correct answer is A. The correct answer distinguishes risk as the uncertainty or chance that a loss may occur and peril as the actual event or cause that results in the loss. Reason B is not correct. This option is wrong because it confuses risk with financial analysis and peril with safety evaluation rather than loss cause. Reason C is not correct. This option is wrong because it misattributes risk to valuation and peril to settlement methods, which is incorrect. Reason D is not correct. This option is wrong because it swaps the definitions, making peril the probability and risk the cause instead of the other way around. Question 2. In underwriting, how does a hazard influence the probability of a covered loss? A. It is an act that directly causes the loss event. B. It is a factor that transforms the nature of a peril. C. It is a condition or situation that increases the likelihood of a peril causing a loss. D. It is the monetary value assigned to an exposure for premium calculation. The correct answer is C. The correct answer identifies a hazard as a condition or situation that raises the likelihood of a peril occurring and causing a loss, which is critical in underwriting risk assessment. Reason A is not correct. This option is wrong because it describes a peril rather than a hazard, which does not directly cause loss but increases its probability. Reason B is not correct. This option is wrong because a hazard does not change the nature of a peril, but affects the likelihood of that peril occurring. Reason D is not correct. This option is wrong because it refers to valuation for premium purposes rather than the likelihood of loss. Question 3. What best describes the principle of indemnity in property insurance? A. Restoring the insured to approximately the same financial position before the loss occurred. B. Penalizing the insured for failing to mitigate loss. C. Transferring the insured's risk exposures to the insurer without financial limits. D. Ensuring the insured gains a profit from a covered loss. The correct answer is A. The correct answer explains that indemnity is designed to restore the insured to their pre-loss financial position without allowing profit, preserving fairness in claim settlement. Reason B is not correct. This option is wrong because indemnity does not penalize the insured but rather restores their financial position. Reason C is not correct. This option is wrong because indemnity does not involve unlimited risk transfer. It limits payment to actual loss. Reason D is not correct. This option is wrong because indemnity explicitly prohibits the insured from profiting from a loss. Question 4. A farmer sells their insured wheat crop and the underlying land to a neighboring rancher via a recorded deed on August 1st. On August 5th, a hailstorm severely damages the standing wheat still on the property. The original policyholder files a claim under the existing crop hail policy. Under the insurable interest requirement at the time of loss, which statement is correct? A. The original policyholder retains coverage because the policy period still included the loss date. B. No party can recover because crop hail coverage automatically terminates upon sale of insured property. C. The new landowner can claim under the original policy, even though they did not assume it. D. The original policyholder cannot recover because they no longer held an insurable interest at the time of loss. The correct answer is D. This option is correct because an insured must have an insurable interest at the moment of loss. Selling the crop and land terminated the original insured's interest before the hail event. Reason A is not correct. Coverage period alone does not satisfy the insurable interest requirement once ownership is transferred. Reason B is not correct. Coverage does not automatically terminate upon sale for all parties. The buyer could obtain or assume coverage if requirements were met. Reason C is not correct. A buyer cannot assert rights under a policy they did not assume. Insurable interest must align with policyholder status. Question 5. Which statement most accurately describes the function of an insurance binder prior to formal policy issuance? A. It guarantees coverage until the insured pays the first advance premium. B. It provides temporary evidence of insurance subject to subsequent policy terms. C. It grants permanent coverage effective until the policy's expiration date. D. It outlines optional coverage endorsements available under the forthcoming policy. The correct answer is B. The correct answer is that a binder serves as temporary evidence of insurance that is subject to the full terms and conditions of the formal policy once it is issued. It does not guarantee coverage indefinitely or replace the policy, nor does it specify optional endorsements in detail. Reason A is not correct. Guaranteeing coverage until premium payment misstates the binder's role, since it is not contingent on premium receipts. Reason C is not correct. Permanent coverage until policy expiration is incorrect because binders are explicitly temporary and are superseded by the policy. Reason D is not correct. Outlining optional endorsements is not the primary purpose. Binders focus on evidence of coverage, not endorsement details. Question 6. Under standard practice, a binder ordinarily terminates at the earliest practicable moment upon which occurrence? A. Payment of the first policy premium to the insurer. B. Issuance of the permanent policy to the insured. C. The binder's specified expiration date. D. Delivery of the declarations page by the agent. The correct answer is B. The correct answer is issuance of the permanent policy, as binders end at the earliest point when the formal policy comes into effect. Premium payment, expiration date, or declarations delivery are not the primary terminating event when the policy is issued first. Reason A is not correct. Termination is not tied to premium payment. A binder may lapse or be replaced independently of payment timing. Reason C is not correct. While binders have expiration dates, they terminate earlier if the policy is issued first. Reason D is not correct. Delivery of the declarations page is part of issuance but is not itself the terminating act when the full policy is issued. Question 7. What does the assignment clause in a standard property insurance contract require for a valid transfer of coverage rights to a third party? A. Automatic transfer upon written notice to the insurer. B. Insurer's prior written consent to the assignment. C. Payment of an assignment fee to the insurer. D. Endorsement issuance within 30 days of transfer. The correct answer is B. The assignment clause mandates that any transfer of rights or interest under the policy is ineffective unless the insurer provides prior written consent. Neither mere notice, fee payment, nor timed endorsement issuance alone satisfies this requirement. Reason A is not correct. Notice a loan without consent does not effectuate a valid transfer under standard clauses. Reason C is not correct. No assignment fee is stipulated. Consent, not payment, is the key requirement. Reason D is not correct. Issuing an endorsement post-transfer does not replace the need for prior consent. Question 8. Farmer Jane sells her 100-acre field to neighbor Mike on July 1st, but retains her crop insurance policy covering the entire farm. On August 15th, after hail damages the sold field, Jane instructs the insurer to pay any lost proceeds for that 100-acre parcel to Mike. Which best describes this transaction? A. Assignment of policy, since all contractual rights under the policy were purportedly transferred to Mike before the loss occurred. B. Assignment of claim proceeds, because only the right to receive post-loss payment for the specified parcel was directed to Mike. C. Novation of the insurance contract, as it implies replacing the original agreement with a new contract between Mike and the insurer. D. Garnishment of insurance proceeds, reflecting a legal withholding of benefits for Mike's financial interest. The correct answer is B. The correct answer is assignment of claim proceeds, which transfers solely the right to receive payment after a covered loss for a designated interest without transferring full policy rights. Reason A is not correct. This is incorrect because a full assignment of policy would transfer all contractual rights pre-loss, but Jane retained coverage rights for the unsold acreage. Reason C is not correct. This is incorrect because novation requires mutual agreement to replace the original contract, not merely redirecting loss payment under the existing policy. Reason D is not correct. This is incorrect because garnishment involves a court-ordered withholding of funds, not a voluntary directive of claim proceeds. Question 9. Which of the following is not a recognized method for determining actual cash value under standard property insurance policies? A. Fair market value. B. Replacement cost minus depreciation. C. Broad evidence rule. D. Stated value. The correct answer is D. Stated value is not a method used to determine actual cash value. The other three are standard ACV valuation approaches. Reason A is not correct. Fair market value is one of the primary methods for determining actual cash value. Reason B is not correct. Replacement cost minus depreciation is a standard approach for calculating actual cash value. Reason C is not correct. Broad evidence rule uses various types of evidence to establish actual cash value. Question 10. When calculating depreciation for actual cash value determination, which factor is typically not taken into account? A. Physical deterioration. B. Functional obsolescence. C. Economic obsolescence. D. Current market demand. The correct answer is D. Current market demand is not a component considered when calculating depreciation. Factors such as physical deterioration, functional obsolescence, and economic obsolescence are used. Reason A is not correct. Physical deterioration directly affects the depreciation amount for actual cash value. Reason B is not correct. Functional obsolescence is included when determining depreciation adjustments. Reason C is not correct. Economic obsolescence is a recognized factor in depreciation calculations. Question 11. Under the limits of liability provision in an actual cash value policy, the insurer is required to pay A. Full replacement cost of the property without considering depreciation. B. Replacement cost minus depreciation regardless of the policy limit. C. The lesser of the actual cash value in the policy limit. D. The policy limit plus any depreciation amount. The correct answer is C. The insurer's obligation is limited to the lower of the actual cash value or the policy limit. Other formulations misstate the application of limits or depreciation. Reason A is not correct. An ACV policy does not pay full replacement cost without depreciation. Reason B is not correct. The policy limit still caps payment even after depreciation is applied. Reason D is not correct. Depreciation is not added to the policy limit in calculating payment. Question 12. Under InsCO-Crop, hail provisions within how many hours must an insured notify the insurer of a loss to satisfy the prompt notice requirement? A. Within 24 hours of the loss. B. Within 48 hours of the loss. C. Within 72 hours of the loss. D. Within 7 calendar days of the loss. The correct answer is C. The correct answer is that notice must be provided within 72 hours, as InsCO-Crop hail policies require prompt notification of loss within that time frame. Reason A is not correct. Providing notice within 24 hours exceeds the policy's requirement, but is not specified in NCIS guidelines. Reason B is not correct. Although 48 hours is prompt, NCIS provisions explicitly mandate a 72-hour window. Reason D is not correct. Allowing up to 7 days exceeds the NCIS policy's prompt notice requirement of 72 hours. Question 13. Under the NCIS general provisions for crop hail coverage, following a covered loss, the insured must take all reasonable steps to protect the property from further loss and must also A. Complete and submit a proof of loss form within the policy's stated deadline. B. Produce a representative sample of undamaged crop for quality testing. C. Preserve salvage and maintain records of all expenses incurred to protect the property. D. Obtain prior written consent from the insurer before making any temporary repairs. The correct answer is C. The correct answer is that the insured must preserve salvage and keep records of related expenses, per NCIS general provisions, requiring preservation of damaged property and documentation of mitigation costs. Reason A is not correct. Filing a proof of loss is required but not part of the duty to protect property and preserve salvage under general provisions. Reason B is not correct. Providing an undamaged sample is not specified as an insured responsibility under the general provisions. Reason D is not correct. Temporary repairs may be made without prior written consent as long as they protect against further loss. Question 14. A crop insurance agent receives a call from a policyholder reporting suspected hail damage to corn. According to FCIC loss reporting requirements, which action should the agent initiate first to comply with documentation and reporting duties? A. Notify the insurance provider of the potential loss within 72 hours of discovery. B. Schedule a loss adjustment inspection within 3 business days. C. Request that the producer submit a sworn statement of loss within 15 days. D. Advise the producer to collect and preserve damaged samples for 5 days. The correct answer is A. The agent's immediate duty is to notify the insurer of a potential loss within 72 hours, as mandated by the FCIC handbook. Other steps such as sworn statements, inspections, and sample preservation occur subsequently. Reason B is not correct. Scheduling an inspection is a follow-up task and not the agent's first obligation. Reason C is not correct. Requesting a sworn statement is a later requirement and does not satisfy the initial notification timeline. Reason D is not correct. Advising sample preservation does not fulfill the immediate reporting duty to the insurer. Question 15. During a loss adjustment, an insurance adjuster must estimate the acreage of a flooded soybean field. Which method most accurately ensures compliance with RMA appraisal protocols for measuring damaged acreage? A. Use GPS coordinates to delineate field sections and apply systematic grid sampling across each section. B. Rely on the grower's estimate of damaged area and corroborate with aerial photographs. C. Measure damaged yield bushels and convert the figure to acreage using certified yield factors. D. Subtract the undamaged area measured via a field transect from the total field acreage. The correct answer is A. RMA, guidelines prescribe GPS delineated sections and systematic grid sampling to produce unbiased and reproducible acreage estimates. Other approaches lack standardized sampling and may introduce bias. Reason B is not correct. Relying on a grower's estimate and photos is not a standardized RMA protocol and may reduce accuracy. Reason C is not correct. Converting bushels to acreage ignores spatial variability and does not follow RMA sampling procedures. Reason D is not correct. Subtracting via a single transect fails to sample consistently across the field and may bias results. Question 16. What is the primary purpose of the NCIS general provisions in a multiple peril crop insurance policy? A. To establish only the definition section for policy terms. B. To specify state-specific variations to the policy language. C. To outline optional endorsement provisions for additional coverage. D. To prescribe standardized terms, conditions, and clauses applicable to all policies. The correct answer is D. The correct answer is prescribed standardized terms, conditions, and clauses applicable to all policies, because the general provisions set uniform policy structure and obligations across all regions. Reason A is not correct. That option focuses solely on definitions, but the general provisions cover more than just definitions. Reason B is not correct. That option refers to state variations, which are addressed by special provisions, not the general provisions. Reason C is not correct. That option describes endorsements which are separate from the general provisions. Question 17. How do NCIS special provisions function in relation to the general provisions of a multiple peril crop insurance policy? A. They override any conflicting general provisions with locally tailored terms. B. They add optional coverage elements that never interact with general clauses. C. They provide additional definitions but leave general terms intact. D. They supplement general clauses without altering any conflicting language. The correct answer is A. The correct answer is that special provisions override any conflicting general provisions with locally tailored terms because they are designed to amend or replace general clauses to reflect state or regional requirements. Reason B is not correct. That option misstates that coverage elements never interact, whereas special provisions can modify existing clauses. Reason C is not correct. That option suggests only definitions change, but special provisions can amend any conflicting provisions. Reason D is not correct. That option implies no alteration of conflicts, but special provisions are intended to supersede conflicting general terms. Question 18. A claim adjuster is reviewing a common crop insurance policy CCIP issued for crop hail coverage and needs to locate the insuring agreement and the list of covered perils within the form. Where in the CCIP document are both the insuring agreement and covered perils for crop hail found? A. Section 1. Common Crop Insurance Policy General Provisions. B. Section 2. Crop Hail Insurance Provisions, Special Provisions. C. Section 1. MPCI Basic Provisions included by reference. D. Section 5. Loss Adjustment Endorsement attached to the policy. The correct answer is B. The insuring agreement and detailed list of covered perils for crop hail are contained in the crop hail insurance provisions, which are presented as Section 2, Special Provisions, of the CCIP form. General provisions cover definitions and conditions. MPCI Basic provisions apply only to MPCI policies, and loss adjustment endorsements address adjustment procedures rather than the insuring agreement or perils. Reason A is not correct. General provisions cover definitions and policy conditions, but do not include the specific insuring agreement or list of covered perils for crop hail. Reason C is not correct. The MPCI basic provisions apply only to MPCI policies and are not part of the crop hail sections of the CCIP form. Reason D is not correct. Loss adjustment endorsements describe adjustment procedures and are not where the insuring agreement or covered perils are stated. Question 19. Which of the following perils requires a separate endorsement under the NCIS crop hail policy rather than being insured by the basic hail contract? A. Drought. B. Freezing damage. C. Insect infestation. D. Fire and lightning. The correct answer is D. The fire and lightning endorsement is the only listed peril that can be added to an NCIS crop hail policy. The base contract covers hail only, and the endorsement extends coverage to fire and lightning losses. Reason A is not correct. Drought losses are not covered under a crop hail policy or its endorsements, and would require a different crop insurance product. Reason B is not correct. Freezing damage is not insurable under the crop hail policy or its endorsements, and requires a separate frost or freeze coverage product. Reason C is not correct. Insect infestation is excluded from hail policies and must be insured under a separate program, not via a crop hail endorsement. Question 20. Under the NCIS crop hail policy, how does scheduled coverage differ from blanket coverage in structuring the sum insured? A. Scheduled coverage applies only to pre-harvest standing crops, whereas blanket coverage extends to stored grain. B. Scheduled coverage provides a uniform rate per acre across all fields, whereas blanket coverage allows variable rates by field location. C. Scheduled coverage assigns individual sums insured to each field, whereas blanket coverage aggregates all insured acreage under one combined limit. D. Scheduled coverage requires a separate fire and lightning endorsement, whereas blanket coverage includes those perils automatically. The correct answer is C. Scheduled coverage lists each field or unit with its own sum insured, while blanket coverage pools all insured acreage under a single combined sum insured limit. Reason A is not correct. Both scheduled and blanket coverage apply only to standing crops. Neither automatically covers stored grain. Reason B is not correct. Rate structure is unrelated to scheduled versus blanket coverage, which differ in how sums insured are allocated. Reason D is not correct. Fire and lightning endorsements are separate from the scheduled versus blanket distinction and are not automatically included under blanket coverage. Enjoyed this practice test? Tap like, hit subscribe, and share it with a classmate. Got a question we should tweak? Comment below. We read them all. Find full practice exam books in the description or at ExamPrep.School.